video tomorrow. I took a break of the game videos because my head started hurting when I edited it. You know me. Oh God.
Kidnappings are scary, but I have to say that maybe being kidnapped all those years ago probably wasn't the worst thing.
I'm trying to get one out.
It sounds a little complicated, right? Get ready to buckle up for a wild ride about how a kidnapping taught me about love and heartbreak. Not everyone gets a happy ending, but I guess that's just life, right? Before I go into any particulars, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel.
I ain't even need to do that. Hold on, I got quick. Cause when I was trying to use, I was using the bathroom and came back and my thing was on.
Because I was always tall for my age. I realized people were kind of scared of me. Bullies always wanted to be my friend. For a while, my best friends were these two jerks my age. One day, when we were about 12 or so, we were walking around a park.
After everything I've been through, I certainly deserved a happy ending. Sadly, I don't believe those exist anymore. I thought getting kidnapped was the worst experience of my life. Turns out, he wasn't done with me when the ransom was handed in. Before I get into any of that though, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel.
Yep.
If you don't, a monster will visit you in your sleep. That's actually how all of this started, with a stupid urban legend. One day, my best friend
I'm in my house, so how is my sleep?
We came across this one about
My mom can protect me, my family can protect me. I'm trying to say, it's so high, y'all. I always say that. It does.
Without our parents' permission, we decided to go out and try it. The three of us stayed up all night.
Well, Melo, I said, well, Melo, I meant Lonzo.
At first, I really thought it was the ghost of a bird.
Talking about well, no. I found his brother.
He much older than us, dragged me away. My friends were screaming. He threw an envelope at them and told them to give that to my father. The money better be in the designated location by 5 a.m. If not, well, you won't be very happy. Do not call the police or else. I was so scared.
Swish. I don't know how I missed.
But I never thought I'd get caught in the middle of such a scary.
Oh, shoot!
My dad paid the ransom, and then he just disappeared. We never got a good look at his face because he had a surgical mask on. He put me.
I didn't even need to do that. I'm gonna play my game so long.
We are the Thrivers. Women with metastatic breast cancer. Standing in the struggle. Hustling through hurt. Asking for science.
Sure.
Sorries.
No, that type of lunch I can't make it.
Has come. Living longer is possible and proven in women taking Kisqali plus fulvestrant or a non-steroidal aromatase inhibitor. Kisqali is the only treatment.
Oh my God, I keep missing. What's wrong with that?
Trials, helping women live longer with HR
Trash.
positive, HER2 negative metastatic breast cancer.
I
Kisqali is
swear.
also significantly more effective at delaying disease progression versus a non-steroidal aromatase inhibitor or fulvestrant.
Thank you.
Kisqali can cause
I said thank you. Correcting me.
the car and blindfolded me. Next, we drove the next few hours.
Look, I have 7 points. I don't
Kept
have
apologizing. It was so weird. Is this guy stable? So many questions flew through my
trash. You so trash.
and my dad didn't answer my first knock at the door. What would he do if the cops were called? Lucky for me, those were
Airball.
I never had to
Coming down.
At one point, my kidnapper stopped the car and told me to brace myself. I didn't know what that meant exactly, but before I had time to think, he pushed me. Next, I fell into grass. It was a soft.
I did Paul George move.
I heard the car
I know he
drive off,
didn't know that.
and I took off my blindfold to see I was in the middle of a parking lot. A few minutes later, my father drove up in his car. The kidnapper had texted him the details of where to find me once he's
Why is he not
police to
making?
try and catch
Oh,
the kidnapper, but he was nowhere to be seen.
make it,
Everything
please.
was dark when he kidnapped
Thank
me,
you.
and he was wearing a surgical mask, so
I didn't know.
never got a good look at his face. Plus, I was blindfolded most of the time. The only thing I could remember was his deep voice. I was so scared. I didn't leave the house for weeks. I went to therapy for a long time and even had to redo the whole school year. I
Dang.
could not stay in the dark anymore. I never left the house at night at all. I constantly thought I saw him around all the time. At first, I thought I had my trauma under control, but it became apparent it was consuming me. One time, my friends tried to convince me to come out dancing with them.
thought
years of grieving kidnapping. It was just
he's gonna come calm. I'm really doing
a stranger's
okay.
car, Mandy.
Sure.
She said, "It's not like you died or anything. Having someone call out your insecurities like that." She was right in a way. I felt so guilty for acting the way that I did. I found it very difficult to be around guys since the incident.
Ooh, I thought I missed that.
I went to an all-girls private school and had virtually no contact with any guys at all, except my father. In fact, I barely saw anyone at all except for my friends. Without them, I was afraid I'd fall into an even darker space.
Naked.
I begged them
And he
to hang out
missed.
with me again, but she said they were so sure we were adults, and at 19, and almost all of my friends,
Of course I'm gonna make that because I was too
I
open.
couldn't hang out with guys
Yeah.
without having a freak
Come.
out. They wanted nothing to do with me.
We'll make him as a sci-fi.
On one condition,
Tonight.
prove to us that you can be around a guy. Her solution was that I needed to find a boyfriend. This would be better
I might
for
stay up
everyone,
all
as
night.
I would stop fifth-wheeling and ensure I could stay relieved. I agreed because I was desperate. But how was I even supposed to do that? Even if I didn't actively avoid boys, who were none at school or anything, my closest chance of meeting a guy would be approaching someone in the supermarket. Now, my standards are pretty low, being my selection is limited to a grocery store. But one day, when I was out shopping, I saw this super hot guy. Like, I am talking model-worthy. He was tall and built. He looked like a boy band member. I kind of stopped him for a while, following him aisle to aisle, peeking at him from behind shelves. Part of me wanted to run up to him and steal a kiss, but the other was a little petrified. I awkwardly watched him from afar, weighing my options out. I looked around the store and saw the other eligible bachelors. I
thought he
there
made
was
that.
no way I was letting such a hottie go. I was going to ask him out myself. I approached him and let him know that I was quite interested in getting to know him a little better. He looked at me and quickly looked away, very flustered. He ran out of the store. I thought it was kind of attractive. Maybe he was just as nervous as I was to talk to a girl. I chased after him and yelled at him to wait. I followed him up to the car, explaining that I didn't mean to scare him off. I'm sorry, I need to go. I exclaimed in a panic. That voice! The way he apologized, I was immediately flashed back to the kidnapping that had ruined my social life. It was him! I can never forget that voice. He left everything in his car and pushed it away from him and moved towards me. I now know where my internal voice was coming from. As the attractive boy came at me, I met his eyes. Without the surgical mask, it was difficult to recognize him. But now that I heard his voice apologize, I knew this was him. I quickly turned to run away, but he grabbed my arm. Before I got the chance to scream or anything, he pushed me into his car. Next, he leaned in and told me I had to be quiet or else, and hand over my phone. I did what he said. He popped my phone in his pocket and got in the driver's seat. Next, we were driving somewhere. I was so scared of what he could do to me, so I just sat very still in the passenger seat and looked forward. We didn't say a word until he stopped at this shack in the middle of nowhere. My mind was racing. I was again just a 13-year-old waiting for her dad to pay the ransom. I was shaking. It was like my deepest nightmare. When we went inside, it didn't look like the torture chamber I was imagining. There were no knives hanging from the ceiling or a woman tied in a corner. Instead, it looked like he lived here. He instructed me to sit on the sofa, and I followed his orders. I heard a loud pop and quickly closed my eyes and covered my head. "Don't hurt me!" I yelled. "What?" he asked, looking confused. "Look, I'm not going to hurt you. I just can't have you go into the cops." I asked what he planned on doing to me then. Holding me hostage? Killing me? He looked even more shocked and put his hands up. He told me to calm down, and he would just explain everything. He told me this was his home, and he had something to show me before I called the cops on him. He showed me another room, where this woman was lying in bed, hooked up to a bunch of beeping machines. He explained that the money he got
I'm watching a story, so no.
expensive cancer treatment. He never intended to hurt me, but he found no other way of getting the money. His shifts were long and hard, but he barely made enough to cover his rent. In fact, he already spent all the ransom money on her first treatment, and he needed more money for additional surgeries. Jeff talked about his mom, and I don't know why, but he just got even more attractive to me. He was so kind and funny, and he had a real reason to have kidnapped me all those years ago. He too was haunted by the mistakes that he had made in desperation. He had actually been wanting to talk to me and formally apologize for anything that happened, but he always chickened out. I was completely lost in thought.
What dog got
Violent
there?
bang at the door. "Open up, we've got to leave." He
Oh, Michael Jordan star.
panicked. "They take me away. If I'm not here to take care of my
Swish.
My friends asked him where it was. When it all ended, he called them all back to ask about my boyfriend. I got countless
Oh, it's turning 47. I said 47. I'm at 43.
talk all about Jeff. Most important of all, I got a very nice message from my father saying how proud he was of me working past my problems and apologizing for intruding tonight. He said he was worried I was never going to have a normal life because of what happened. As I got out of the car and we were ready to bid our farewells, an idea popped in my head. See you, Mandy. Thanks again, really. Jeff laughed. Wow, 3 hours is the shortest relationship in my life. Actually, Jeff, there is something you can help me with. I asked him what he thought about prolonging our arrangement a little bit longer. I think I had a solution to both of our problems. I explained to him the problem with my friends and me, needing a boyfriend to hang out with them. I told him that if he acted like my boyfriend, I would pay him some money to keep up the cancer treatment and I wouldn't go to the police. Plus, this was probably good for my mental health, right? He was very happy about this and we exchanged numbers. I introduced Jeff to my friend group that weekend and they loved him. We told our fake story again and laughed about all these inside jokes. It was actually really nice. Like, I knew the entire thing was fake, but part of me was all wrapped up in it still. We continued meeting like this a few times with my friends and father. The weird thing is, the nightmares even stopped for a bit. I had somehow convinced myself it was all real. One day, after he dropped me off, I realized I was comfortable being around him. This was a breakthrough for me. I went from punching random guys on the dance floor to calmly sitting in the car with my ex-kidnapper. He turned to say goodbye, and without thinking, I just blurted those 3 words out. He turned to say goodbye, and without thinking, I just blurted.
Yeah, I just watching part 2.
I love you. He stared at me for a moment, and I went on. I can't continue like we are now. I need you to know that. I'll still send money for your mom's treatment. I'll send anything. I just needed to say this fake arrangement.
That was not no 2. That was a 2. See, not no 3. That's a 2.
And kissed me. He also agreed that we had an undeniable connection from the moment he saw me in the store. Just like that, we were dating. And I wish I had been smarter and had seen him for what he really is. Soon after we became official, my dad asked to meet with him. We were a little nervous that he secretly hated him, but the news shocked us both. He offered Jeff a position in his company. It wasn't a very big job, but it let him get in touch with a lot of clientele. Plus, it paid better than anything he ever had. We never spoke a single word of the kidnapping or anything to my father, and I plan on keeping it that way. He worked very hard at the starting position, and life was good. We moved in together.
I'm trying to get this diamond. I'm trying to work this diamond like all night. I might do all night. I don't know.
Take care of his mother. I used to
I'll think about it.
But one day, things changed. He was really weird when he came home, and I asked what had happened. He told me her condition had gotten much worse. He didn't think it was a good idea for me to visit with her anymore. He said she was a very proud woman and wouldn't have wanted anyone to see her this way. I never questioned it and let him keep that private part of his life. Despite his mother's condition, he seemed happier. He loved his life and he was very ambitious. He told me one day that he had dreams of having his own company and to be rich. He was making decent money, but he said it all had to go to his mother's treatment. So I continued to pay for everything for us. The apartment, groceries, going out. I loved being with such a selfless person, or so I thought. One day, he got this huge promotion. With this promotion came a lot of money. I thought he would be able to help out. Right at that time though, his mother needed another major surgery. I asked if I could visit her, but he said that she still wasn't comfortable with me seeing her like that. He made me promise never to go to her. He ended up spending even more time.
I didn't even know I even
He
made
was
it.
pretty much either at his mother's shack.
Since one day,
Even when he came home,
I made a point. I didn't know
at
that.
first I thought this was because of him having no time, but it became very apparent one day that he was trying not to hang out with me. We had a huge fight over it one day. I walked right up to him and asked if he was cheating. He insisted he was just working and taking care of his mom. He asked me how I could be so selfish that I need to be the center of everything. He had a much harder life than me, and I didn't understand. I felt really bad about it, and I told him I would make it up with a romantic evening. On me, of course. I insisted on making us a reservation at this fancy restaurant since he was showing no initiative in making dates. It was our anniversary, and I wanted it to be special. I waited a whole hour for him there. It was so embarrassing. I called him over and over again,
trash.
Shut off the lights and waited eagerly in the darkness while watching funny My Story animated videos and scrolling through memes. I didn't have to wait long. As soon as I heard a car pull into the driveway, I hid behind a couch to catch him by surprise, along with whoever else he was praying. Well, I was right, partly. He
Oh my gosh. Oh shoot, I forgot I'm online.
This was his wife. The girl was maybe about 14, and she was blindfolded and very scared. He told her to wait patiently, and as soon as her father
I even need to do that.
he would drop her off safe and sound. It seemed like he was doing much more with his connections than business. I was angry. I quickly texted my friend to call the police and sent her my location. Next, I put my phone on recording mode. I jumped from behind the couch, screaming, startling them both. I confronted him immediately, saying that he needed to explain himself. Well, he spilled the beans pretty fast. Turns out, his mom did take a turn for the worst, but he wasn't supporting her. She died. He had lied about her health so he could continue to live off of me and hoard his wealth. He told me he never loved me. He just saw me as a ticket to wealth. He planned on getting so rich that he could leave me high and dry and never worry about his bank account again. He had been using his connections to get contacts from very rich parents so that he could continue collecting ransoms. I told him his days of being rich were over, but he said not to be so sure. He threatened to kill me. Nobody's ever going to find out about this little conversation, Mandy, he said, and he jumped at me. And I started running, and I hid in his mother's room and closed the door with a key. So he started banging on the door really hard, trying to break in. But 30 seconds later, the lights started flashing. It was the police. He tried to make a run for it, but the police tackled him down very hard. He started crying hysterically when I told him there was no commission in prison. Today, I sleep very calmly and without nightmares, knowing that I caught my kidnapper.
Yo, I'm just trying to concentrate.
I am the unluckiest person in the world. I think it started the day I was born. My bad luck just got worse and worse, and my 18th year was the worst year of all. First of all, I was abandoned by my parents as a baby. My Aunt Carol took pity on me, and she took me in, but she already had a lot of mouths to feed. Her husband, Uncle Ken, and my cousins resented the fact that there was another baby in the house. They didn't like me. They pushed me around a lot. They liked to say that I had to earn for my keep since I was practically an orphan. So I never really had a family. I didn't have any friends either. The kids in my school said that they didn't want my luck to rub off on them. It didn't help that they named me Penny, because soon people started to call me Unlucky Penny. That name followed me all until high school. I always got bad grades. I always got picked last for teams.
Find a way.
I wanted to date a girl who was... As I entered the classroom, all the students were looking at me. They were scanning me from head to toe. Everyone was curious to know who my dad was so they could measure my social value. They looked at my shoes, clothes, and... Get up, Dana. We're leaving now. My mom rushed inside my room in the middle of the night. I got up, still half asleep, as my mother packed my stuff. What is it, Mom? I asked. It's your grandmother. She asked all the family to come together at her place. Everyone was holding back tears. We all got emotional. That is, everyone but my mom. My mom seemed impatient, always looking away. I didn't want to think about it at the time, but she looked almost excited. She acted proper enough in front of family, but once we got home, she went insane. She started smashing things and slamming doors. I went to try to calm her down, but was immediately too aggressive. She told me that I was going to take all of my stuff and move into the basement. Our basement wasn't even finished, so I just moved a basket of my clothes and some sleeping stuff on the cold, wet cement floor. When dinner came, she refused to let me sit at the table with her and Daniel. After they would have finished eating, Daniel brought me down some of their leftovers. It was just some happy...
I wasn't your ordinary child. There was something very, very special about me. But I ended up getting sold to a rich parent.
I don't know how long I had this curse, but every boy I kiss dies. It sounds crazy. You probably think I'm a lunatic, but it's true. I have a death kiss.
Oh my God, this fan feels so good.
But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell. If you do, your crush will ask you out within a week. Trust me, it really works. I first found out in high school who my first boyfriend ever. It was in 7th grade, and we were at his birthday party, and we were holding hands. I was so nervous.
7th grade, you would have been like 13.
But then,
You turned 13. You would have been 12 then. So how you gonna have a boyfriend at 12 years old?
And then he kissed me. It was very awkward, and it was only a 2-second kiss. But still,
I see you, Kimbo.
I was happy I managed to get my first kiss. But my boyfriend almost immediately said he didn't feel so good. We went back to the main party, and he told his mom he wanted to leave because his head was aching. They left, and that was the last time I saw
God.
him. Because 2 weeks later, he passed away of unknown causes. I didn't think at the time it was because of me. Why would I? I just assumed he had gotten some terrible disease or illness, and I was heartbroken. That death really messed me up. And of course, no one as young as I was should go through something like that, let alone if they were your boyfriend. Then I was in senior year, and I had my first kiss since my late boyfriend passed.
What? Since when he started missing? Nigga, you lucky, let's see.
When he told me he needed to go, I had deja vu as I was thrown back to a past memory, to when I had my first kiss. Why was the same thing happening again? I was shocked to hear he passed away a few days later. I was distraught. I couldn't believe it. I fell into depression then, as I had suffered 2 tragedies in such a short amount of time. I started to suspect it was me. It couldn't be coincidence that he died right after I kissed him, right? But no, that was ludicrousy. That couldn't be true. That just wasn't possible. But still, after that, I was always very around the place. I told my parents about it, and they said I was
Still made it. Yes, I can.
I shouldn't blame myself for
I
something
go
that
for
was
it.
possible. But I
To
was
the end zone.
So they took me to the doctors, and they said nothing came up on the reports or scans. I was harmless, or so they said.
I got schedule a lot of Friday. 3 o'clock, 3 a.m.
I suppose it may have been my grief mixed with the circumstance of it all that made me initially believe I was similar.
Swish. I start like at 10.
I relaxed and I moved on
Let's
with
go
my
to
life. I was still shocked, however. I had to go through loads of therapy, and it was a while before I could go back to school. But then, in college, I finally felt ready. I finally felt ready to date again. I was at this frat party, and there were so many boys
Not
there.
that
I was hesitant, but I promised to let myself enjoy my time there. I had a lot of friends. I real partied and danced.
No, you
I was in the
weren't
kitchen
scared.
filling up my
Stop
drink
playing.
when a guy came up behind me. I didn't even know him really, but he was obviously drunk. And then, out of nowhere, he leaned over and kissed me on the mouth. It was just a quick peck, but I was scared. Nevertheless, I had only had 3 kisses in my life, including that one, and 2 of them resulted in the boy dying. I watched the guy carefully to see if anything had come of it, but he seemed fine. He didn't look ill. He didn't ask to go home straight away. He just slurred around in his talking state, and it seemed he was fine. I was so thankful. I breathed a massive sigh of relief. Finally, my fears weren't real. I could relax. I could live my life without worrying all the time. I was annoyed at that guy for kissing me out of nowhere, but at the same time, I was relieved at the confirmation that I didn't have a deadly kiss. But then, the next day, I was in my friend's dorm room when a girl barged in. "Have you heard?" she cried. "Heard what?" I asked. "Tommy's dead." I felt the blood run cold. Tommy. He was the guy from last night. The guy who drunkenly kissed me. "You're kidding," I said in a shaky voice. "Please tell me you're kidding. Why would I joke about something like
Oh
that?"
my
She
God.
replied, annoyed. Apparently he went back to his dorm room last night, but didn't wake up again.
Well, this game's
I
not
have no
liking
idea
me.
what happened. I stayed quiet. I was convinced. This was my fault. I killed Tommy. I killed him with my kiss. Should I tell them? No, but they wouldn't believe me, and I might go to
They
jail.
make it, thank
No,
you.
I wouldn't tell them.
Hold up. Don't let him shoot. Don't leave him shoot. No, y'all better block me. I think I'm fine.
But I would keep it no matter what. But then, the 3rd year of college came around. I had not dated any guy.
Hold up.
I had
Let
stayed
me.
single
Oh,
all the time.
she can't shoot.
Boys who had asked me out, who I would have loved to date, but I had rejected them. I couldn't risk their life. But then came this new guy, the sweetest, kindest, funniest, most amazing guy I've ever met.
Shouldn't have let him open.
His name was Flynn, and he
The
was
funny mic is on loud.
when we first met. I immediately clicked. I could tell we were made for each other. We talked for so long, and hours would go by, and I didn't even realize it. Then he asked me to go out with him. I didn't know what to do. I really, really liked him. He was so perfect, and I hadn't dated anyone for so long. I had been so good. I felt like I deserved it. So against my better judgment, I agreed. We went out the next day. I didn't want to tell him about the kiss. He would probably think I was a freak. So I let myself date but I would never let us get too close. I always stayed at least 2 meters away from him. He probably thought I was nervous or shy or something. Little did he know I had a deadly kiss. But then, one night, we were in Finn's store playing cards. It was getting late, and I told him I should probably go back. I got up to leave, and we walked over to the store. I turned around to say goodbye, but then he was suddenly really close to me. My heart was beating so fast. Then he kissed me out of nowhere. I pushed him away, panicking, watching for the signs of his body reacting to my lips. The headache, the unease, but nothing happened. He was just standing there, looking hurt after I pushed him away. And then he raised a hand to his head. He collapsed. I screamed, "Not Finn, please, not him." He went into shock and lost consciousness immediately. The death effect was getting even more instantaneous. I screamed. I tried to wake him up, and I don't know why, but I kissed him again. Anything to help him. And miraculously, he woke up. His eyes fluttered open. I sobbed in relief, in disbelief. He was alive. I was so perplexed. How could that happen? But I didn't care too much about the how. I was just grateful that he was alive again. My kiss wasn't deadly any longer. Maybe I had grown out of it. While these hopeful thoughts plagued my mind, I took Finn to the hospital, just to be sure.
You heard that rapping.
Finn's car. I told him about my curse, about my deadly kiss. He thought I was joking at first, but once I told him about my past boyfriends, then about Tommy, and then about what happened just then with him, he stopped laughing. "Wait, you mean it?" he said in a serious tone. I nodded. "I don't know why, but that's just how it is." "Then how come I'm still alive?" he asked. "I don't know. Maybe you're immune or something? I kissed you again? I don't know. I thought it might help. I guess it did." He scratched his chin. "Maybe it has something to do with antibodies. Maybe the first kiss dealt the thing that would have killed me, but the second one gave me immunity." I shrugged. "It doesn't matter." I told him we had to break up. He protested, but I told him we could never kiss again. We couldn't risk it.
I can tell he. Oh! We're bitches, y'all.
He was silent. Then he asked, "Why couldn't we still date then?" I told him again we could never kiss, and he nodded, saying he heard me, but he still wanted to be with me. I was shocked, and then I started crying. He hugged me. I was still crying when we eventually got to the hospital. The doctor said he was fine. We told her Finn had just lost consciousness randomly. We didn't mention my curse. When we got home, we made a pact never to kiss again. Whatever had brought Finn back to life was a miracle. I wasn't going to risk that by kissing him again. For a whole year, we continued dating. We had the best time. We chatted, we went on trips, we did everything together. It seemed not to matter that we couldn't kiss, but it was just so sad. Why did I have to have this curse?
Not sad, it's
What did I do wrong? On our 1-year anniversary, we went to a lake that had frozen over in the winter. It was so stunning. The night was scattered with stars, and the icy surface of the lake glistened in the moonlight. It was so perfect. We had brought our ice skating shoes, so we walked down and hopped onto the ice. It seemed stable enough. We started to skate around, me an awkward, clumsy mess. Finn skating gracefully around different spins. We held hands and skated around. It was so romantic. But then, a splintering sound met our ears. We glanced down at the frozen surface on the lake and looked on in terror as cracks started to appear in the ground. "Quick, get out of here!" yelled Finn. We rushed ahead. Finn pushed me away, so I slid further from the weakening ground. Then, I heard the horrific crunch of broken ice, and I looked back to see Finn stuck in the ground, his body submerged in the freezing water. I screamed and rushed back to him. Only his hands were poking up the water now. I grasped his hands and struggled to heave him back onto the ice. Eventually, I pulled him from the water. I yanked him onto solid ground once again. I looked at his face. He was unconscious. His eyes were shut. His lips were blue. He felt frozen solid. I cried, calling for help, but no one was near us. He had water in his lungs, and I knew I had to perform CPR. But what if I made things worse? What if I killed him right now with my kiss? I would never forgive myself. But then I realized if I didn't do anything, and I had missed that chance, I would never forgive myself either. I decided it was better to try than let him die.
Oh my God,
I performed
why would you do
CPR,
that?
and he woke up. He was alive. Finn sputtered out water. Then he looked at me. "What happened?" he said. "You were dying," I cried. "I had to give you CPR." "You? CPR?" Then he gasped. "Does that mean I'm immune to your kiss?" I nodded. "I think so." He smiled and then he kissed me again. I leapt back. "What are you doing?" "I'm immune, remember?" I hesitated. He was right. He was immune to my deadly kiss. Maybe that said I went
That's
to see
everybody
Ergo
on
made a
purpose.
review. I was so happy and I was
Thomas.
crying with joy. Everything was
I
going
don't care
to
if
be
he's
okay.
short.
I was woken up by a knock at my door in the middle of the night. The knock was soft at first,
Wait.
but it got louder, which startled me. I got up and turned on the lights and put on my robe. I slowly started walking towards the door, thinking who it would be at such an hour. As I approached nearer, I heard, "Miss Sydney Davis, it's the police. Open up." I suddenly stopped moving. It was not the first time the police had knocked at my door at night. It was the third. I got anxious and hoped and
Oh, God.
prayed they didn't have any bad news. "Miss Davis," the policeman called out again. So I wiped the fearful look off my face and opened the door to two policemen. I was absolutely devastated by what they said next. But before we move on, like this video, hit that subscribe button, and activate the notification bell. You will become rich in the future. Trust me, it works. "You better come down to the station with us," one of them had said. "Is there any problem, officer? It's quite late," I replied. "Ryan Miller was found lifeless in his apartment, and you were the last person to be seen with him. Everything else will be discussed with you at the station," he replied. My heart sank. Not again, I thought, and for a while I even felt cursed. But since the policemen were waiting, I didn't even get enough time to feel or mourn. I excused myself to go get dressed more appropriately. So I quickly got dressed and grabbed my purse and locked my apartment. We got into the police car and headed towards the station. In the car, I was getting more and more nervous. I didn't want to say anything, but I couldn't remain silent anymore. "Am I in trouble?" I asked. "It depends on if you are responsible or not.
How did I make
Not an
that?
arrest. We just need to question you as soon as possible," one of the police officers replied. After hearing that, I was a little relieved. I know it was selfish of me as my boyfriend was just found dead, but that was not the first time. It was the third guy that I dated who died as if I was cursed or something. And each time I grew colder and colder. We arrived at the station and they led me directly to the questioning room. I waited there for a few minutes after which the lead detective arrived. "Do you want anything to drink?" he asked. He had questioned me in the previous two cases as well. "I'm fine, thank you," I replied. "Well, Sydney, you know the drill. Do you want the presence of your lawyer?" he asked again. "No, I'm ready," I said. "Tell me about your evening, every detail," he said. "We went to dinner like usual at Basil's, took a little walk, and then he dropped me to my apartment around 8:30. He walked me to my apartment door and left. That was the last time I saw him," I told him innocently. He asked me a couple of different questions like if I had ever asked money from him, what kind of job Ryan did, if I had ever been to his apartment. 2020 was different, to say the least. We had virtual dance parties and ordered takeout feasts. But before we give 2020 last looks, hold on to those memories with photo books. Find the good and let it fly at shutterfly.com. Which did not make sense to me. They must have assumed I was responsible because I wanted their money or something. After about an hour and a half, the questioning was over. "I would like to take a polygraph test or a lie detector test tomorrow if you are okay with it," he said as I was about to leave. I had nothing to hide, so I instantly replied, "Sure." Then a policeman drove me home. It was almost 3 in the morning, and I was tired like anything, so I went straight to bed. The next day in the afternoon, I went to the station for the polygraph test. I was prepared for it, but I was a little nervous as I had never gone through something like that before. What if I mess up and I get arrested for that? I thought. For a second, I regretted not calling my lawyer for her presence. The detective sat me on a chair and a polygraph expert wrapped around some wire around my arms, chest, and stomach. The wires were linked to a device that was connected to a computer. After the expert was done preparing me for the test, the detective came on to explain the procedure to me. "I'll ask you a bunch of questions. You have to answer in a yes or no. The data, if you lied or not, will be collected on the computer, okay?" He said. "All right," I replied. Then he started with simple questions at first like, "Is your name Sydney Davis?" "Yes," I replied. He looked at the expert, and the expert nodded in agreement that I had told the truth. He asked me several such questions about me, my work, day-to-day, and relationships. He kept on looking back and forth from me to the expert in the process. In the end, he asked me, "Did you meet Ryan on the night of his death?" "Yes," I replied. "Did you follow him back to his apartment after he dropped you?" He asked again. "No," I said, and the detective looked at the expert again. He nodded that I told the truth. So the detective gave a sigh and said, "All right, Sydney, you can go and wait outside. I'll get back to you in a while." So I went and waited on a bench outside the room. After about
Alright, this time
Good. You passed the lie detector test, and you're off of our suspect list. We might call if we need
I
you
use
again.
my thing as
A list? I doubt they have a list.
that's so weird. I missed
In
it.
the detective's face,
But if I
because I
use
passed the
this,
test, but I was their one and only suspect. If they had only worked to find other suspects beyond me, they might have been able to catch the responsible one already.
make it.
I wanted to tell
So
them to do their jobs properly, but I didn't. I just thanked them and left. A couple of months passed, but there is no new development in the case.
Alright,
Without any
leave
suspect to follow,
the